Stephanie Wilson-Coleman, the Empowerment Doctor. I believe that each soul is jam-packed with every single thing that it needs to be successful. I believe that no matter where you find yourself, that you can overcome. I believe that you have what it takes deep inside of you to be a winner. See, it's not over until you say it's over. Get ready for this adventure towards success. Dream big.
Tomorrow's gonna bring a change. The message remains the same.
Greetings and welcome to A Sip of Inspiration. I am Stephanie Wilson-Coleman, the Empowerment Doctor, and I'm your host for tonight's show. I want to thank all of you for tuning in tonight and listening to us here on A Sip of Inspiration. And I got a couple of surprises for you. First, let me do some general housekeeping, because I'm always told that I don't do enough of this. I want to thank you all for signing on to my website. I want to thank you for subscribing to my newsletter. I want to thank those of you that I will see at my conference next week. I want to thank those of you who've come to my book signings. And I want to thank you who have just sent me well wishes through Facebook. I think you guys are absolutely fantastic. Now, as you know, this is a call-in show, and the number will appear at the bottom. I want you to remind you that there are several ways to get questions to us, and just in case you're a little shy and don't want people to hear your voice, there is the phone number, which you'll see, and there's email, inspire@sbcglobal.net. That's inspire@sbcglobal.net. And then there's inspire@champagneconnection.com. And if you just want to go out and find out what's coming up, I want you to go out to the website, asipofinspiration.com, and take a look around. You can view some old shows, you can look at some comments, and then you can just sort of kind of live in my energy for a second. Now, to get started with tonight's show, there's a couple of things we're going to talk about. First thing we're going to talk about, toxic relationships. And then the next thing we're going to talk about is detoxifying your relationships and detoxifying your heart. I'm getting ready to do a piece or conference entitled Ignite Your Inner Millionaire. And for those of you who've been watching Facebook, this kind of stuff is all over Facebook. Everybody wants to tell you how to make $1 million. Everybody has the answer for it. Everybody wants to tell you that. But what I have discovered is that until you awaken that inner giant, there is no way that you're going to be able to be successful in the outer. You've got to get deep down inside and get that stuff up first. And once you get that stuff up and come to terms with all of those things that you've told yourselves, all of those emotions that you're holding close to your heart and in your body, you get that out, you purify that, then you're open to making the millions that everyone craves. I want you to remember, though, is that money is not the answer to your problems. Money is simply a form of energy. So let's remember that. Now, we'll start off with toxifying relationships. I have a cool exercise that I've run into that I thought would help you understand which relationships are good for you and which relationships are not good for you. Now, I want to have a disclaimer first, though. If you are in a relationship that is physically abusive, emotionally abusive, that is a dangerous relationship, and I need you to get help now. There are a lot of places throughout every city in America where you can go to get some help and you can get some relief. You can also call the local authorities for suggestions, ideas to help get yourself removed from those situations. That is a serious situation. But now for the other relationships in your life, I want you to think about this, and if you're near paper and pencil, as you always should be when you listen to my show, I want you to write down or think about the names of the people that you spend the most time with. We'll give you a few seconds to do that. Now, on that list, I want you to be sure that you include family, friends, and anyone else that comes to mind, clients even. Those of you who own your own businesses, interact with a lot of people, and you have a ton of clients. I want you to think about those too. Now that you've thought about those people, I want you to rate the relationship from a scale of 1 to 5. 1 being the lowest rating, 5 being the highest rating. And I want you to think about, how do you feel when you're with these people? How do they make you feel? Do they make you feel happy, uplifted, filled with joy, laughter, harmony? Or is it the proverbial dark cloud? Do you want to cross the street when you see them? Do they make you sort of feel tired, drained? After interacting with them, do you feel like you just need a nap? So I want you to take some time to think about that. Now, for the most part, some names jumped up immediately as a 5. People that you just enjoy talking to, enjoy being around, clients you love to work with, people, family members who are just number 1 in your book. Not only do you feel good, man, you feel like you've learned something, and you feel like that the rest of your day is just going to be golden. Those are key relationships. Then also, there are those few people that you thought, every time I have to talk to them, man, I want to cross the street. Or, you know what, when I see them on the floor at the elevator, I just turn around and go the other way. I don't want to be on the same elevator with them. Those people. Now, the secret or the magic in that is you need to look at those relationships that you scored, say a 1 or 2. And you need to decide, why do you still have those relationships? Because those relationships are draining your energy. Those relationships are actually making you feel tired. And as you know, as I teach, that where your attention goes, the energy flows. But now this person is keeping your energy from flowing. So they're actually hindering your ability to be successful. So you have got to end those relationships. But the people who are 4s and 5s, those are the people that are causing you to be in the middle of everything, in the motion, moving forward and just having a good time. Those are the people you want to keep. But what about those people in the middle? Those number 3s, right? The people you were non-committal with. I want you to pay attention to those people, and I want you to right now decide, if you had to choose, if they were a 1 or 5, where would they be? Really quick. I don't want you to fool yourself or talk yourself out of the decision. Now, those that ended up or landed in the 1 section are relationships that you need to begin to limit your contact with until you are able to terminate them. And the ones that ended up on the 5 are, of course, the ones that you need to spend more time with. So now I want you to ask yourself, what can you do to spend more time with the people who are 4s and 5s in your life? What can you do to spend more time with people who actually uplift you and make you feel excited for just existing? Are there places you need to go? Are there more people you need to visit? When you make the determination as to what you need to do, write that down and see if you can add more of those kinds of events to your life. Now, the people who ended up on the 1s or 2s list, I want you to avoid those places where you meet those people so that you don't introduce any more people like that in your life. Now, the next question I want you to ask yourself is, what do you need to change about yourself that makes certain that you're always one of those people who... I want you to look at the behavior of your 4s and your 5s. Look at those people. What do they talk about? How do they dress? What do they eat? Where do they go? What do they do for fun? What do they do for pleasure? What do they do for relaxation? And do you do those same things? And if you don't, figure out what you can change about your life now, in this moment, because I believe that this moment is your only point of power. See what you can change so that you can become a 4 and a 5. Now, the next thing is after you've detoxified your relationships, I want you to start to work on your own emotions. I want you to list any grievances that you still hold. And some of those grievances will be strong enough to even be termed or considered anger. However, we hold a lot of things that really don't resonate to the level of anger. We just kind of see it as like a little grievance or something that we're just not quite happy with. I want you to make a list of those. If you have paper, make a written list. If not, let's make a mental list of all the grievances, the anger, and any of the old wounds that seem to come up in your life. Now, what can you do to release those? What do you need to do to finally be rid of those, to finally let those go? And I want you to think about what that is. Then I want you to ask yourself, when can you do it? Generally, the process is very simple. It really is as simple as, are you ready to let it go? And if your answer is no, then ask yourself, when will you be ready to let it go? Will you be ready to let it go in a week? Will you be ready to release it in 2 weeks, a month, 6 months? Whatever you decide, I want you to make a note of that time period. And then I want you to go back. If it's a week, I want you to go back and revisit these grievances in a week. If it's 2 weeks, 2 months, 6 months, whatever you decided, I want you to go back and revisit the grievances at that time. And ask yourself again, are you ready to release it? Are you ready to let it go? And if the answer is yes, I want you to say, yes, I'm ready to let it go. Then I want you to write down, what do you need to do differently? Because that thought or those feelings took up a lot of space in your life. Now that you've released them, that is going to leave you with an emptiness. And you'll be tempted to go back and visit those old thoughts and old grievances. So you're going to have to find something uplifting to do with that time. I want you to keep an emotional log. A log, and it doesn't have to be fancy, but a log that sort of describes your emotions for the day. When you were the happiest during the day, what was the circumstances? What was going on? Where were you? Who were you with? What were you doing? What was special about that moment? And also, I want you to keep a log of any of the low points of your day. What's going on? What happened? Who were the people? What was the situation? I want you to also think about at those highs and lows. Had you eaten? Were you drinking? Are those emotions tied to food or water or alcohol or not? All those are important so that you can begin to control and even out your own emotional life so that you can always have the energy to be a 4 to 5, not only in your life, but in the lives of others. If you've recently lost some relationships, I want you to take time to actually grieve the relationship and then release the relationship. And this goes for any relationship, whether it was a relationship that you wanted to end or one you didn't want to end, or one that was a surprise ending, just any relationship. I want you to just take some time, feel all those emotions come up and release them and let that relationship go. I want you to thank this wonderful universe for the lessons that you learned in that relationship. And I want you to write down the lessons that you learned in that relationship. For we do our best learning in the middle of projects and in relationships. That is the one time that you learn more about yourself than any other time. So I want you to remember those lessons. And if there's things that you learned about yourself that you need to change, I want you to make a commitment to do one thing to start to change that. I know sometimes when we look at all the things that we need to change, I have a friend who says that He had this list of all the things that he had to change, and it was a scroll, and the more he opened it, the longer it got, until at a point that the scroll had no end. Well, if that's what you think is like, I want you just to pick one thing. Don't worry about how long the list is, just one thing, and get started. Because once you start on one thing, you will find that the others will take care of themselves. I want you to also make a recording, an audio recording of your favorite affirmations, such as, I am beautiful, powerful, and creative, and I can handle it. I deserve the best in life. Everywhere I look, money is coming to me. Those kinds of things. And it doesn't have to be very long. I would say maybe between 3 to 8 minutes. I want you to record it, and I want you to listen to it every day. Your voice is the most powerful voice in your life. You believe everything you say to yourself. So doesn't it make sense to put those reminders in a recording so that you can listen to it every day, so you can remind yourself how wonderful you are, how powerful you are, how creative you are, and how worthy you are. Because your voice is the most powerful voice in your life, I just had a thought like pop across my mind. There is that critic voice and that champion voice that's just there all the time. And there are lots of jokes, and one is, well, which one will live? And the one that lives is the one that you feed. So I want you to feed that positive voice, that champion voice. But I want you to be able to recognize it too. Whenever you are saying good, positive things about yourself, I want you to pay attention as to where do you feel that voice? Is it in the heart? Is it in the head? Where is it for you? Because it appears in different places for different people. And then that voice that tells you that you just can't do it, you're never going to get anything right, never did anything right in your whole life, I want you to know where that voice comes from too. And when you hear those voices, the voice that's positive, that's the one I want you to amplify. I want you to pay attention to that. And the voice that's negative, that reminds you of everything that you've ever done wrong in life, I want you to imagine that voice on the radio, and I want you to turn the radio off in your mind, and that will silence that voice. I want you to make a commitment to yourself, a written commitment that you promise yourself that you will do one thing every day that you love. And I want you to write those things down on your calendar so that you do that thing every day. And I want you to experiment with things, because you need to have some time to where you come along away from everybody and everything and just sit with yourself, doing the things that you love, listening to the stories that you're telling yourself so that you'll know what needs to be corrected in your life. Now, detoxifying your heart. There's a lot written about detoxifying your heart. We carry in our bodies all of the love, happiness, all of the sadness, and all of the sorrow that we experience. And your body is your first answer to what's going on. You feel a little pain in your leg or your knee, or your stomach is a little uncomfortable. That lets you know that whatever you're experiencing, whatever you're thinking about, wherever you are, your body isn't quite comfortable with that situation. So I want you to learn to listen to your body. Once you begin to listen to your body, you begin to do more things that feel good to your body and fewer things that feel bad to your body. Then you will be able to release everything through your heart and clear up your heart. We're going to pause just a little bit. We've got a phone call. Good evening.
Well, hey, I really like your show.
Thank you very much. You have a question?
Is that me?
Yes, that is. Would you turn your television down, please? Thank you very much.
Okay. I'm sorry. You know what I was thinking about is, as you were talking about people that make you feel different when you walk into a room or so, What happens when they're in-laws or family members?
Now, I get that question all the time, and they usually are in-laws and family members. And the rule stays the same. Whether they're related or not related, if they are a 1 or 2, meaning they're demotivating, they are not uplifting, that every time you're in their presence, they just make you feel like your stomach hurts or you get a headache, you have to figure out how to spend less time with them. You don't have to be in their space all the time. Now, as I've said before, one of the things that I do with my family and my friends is they are allowed to have the same problem for 1 year. After that, they have to get a new problem or we can't talk about that. Also, I don't allow them to talk about things that are negative or depressing. We have to talk about uplifting subjects. Out of all the things that happen to you in the course of a day, I'm sure something wonderful happened. And those are the things that I want to hear about. And those are the things that I tell them that I want to hear about. And it takes a little training, but before long, those are the things that they're talking about. And you begin to notice the change in them because the more you can get them to dwell upon all of the things that are right in their life, they will see a change in their life. And they'll get to the point that that's all that they want to talk about. And then when you want to feel down and negative, they'll be the ones that'll be your cheerleader uplifting you. Does that help? Thank you. Now, usually it is the people who are closest to us that can push our buttons. It's incredibly difficult for strangers to push our buttons because they don't know us that well. So, as I stated earlier, usually it is family or close friends who actually will drag you down and keep you vibrating on a low level, keep you experiencing that 1 or 2 kind of melancholy feeling all the time. And those people have to be retrained. You see, negativity is incredibly addictive. When I say addictive, that we get something from it. We like it. And if we do it more, the brain wants more of it. So we have to actually train ourselves to be uplifting. So this is what one of those conversations would sound like. Starting today, I have decided that I'm going to only talk about happy, uplifting things in all of my conversations because I'm going to change my life. So from this point forward, we're going to talk about happy, uplifting things. And if you don't have any happy, uplifting things to talk about, I want you to feel free to talk to your other friends about those things because I will not have another conversation like that. You have got to stand up for what you believe in. You've got to stand up for your health, and you've got to stand up for your life. You can't shrink just because they're family members and just because they're close friends. Because if you don't make the decision to move forward, then you will never change your life. Now, in detoxifying your heart and your body, as I mentioned earlier, we carry with us inside of our bodies all of the emotions that we experience, the happy ones, the happy times, the sad ones, and the sad times. So I want you to think at this moment, I want you to think about painful events from the past. And as you think about those painful events, I want you to think about the age. How old were you or how young were you at that time? And in that experience, I want you to think about what needs were not being met. Did you feel abandoned? You didn't feel cared for? You didn't feel loved? You didn't feel like you were in a safe place? And how did that make you feel with that person? And have you experienced that with other people? Now, I want you to look at life and that event from where you are today. Is that need still unmet, or is it being met, just in a different way? And if it's being met now, Are you ready to release that old event, that person, that age? Are you ready to comfort that event from the past so that you can move forward? And the next thing I want you to do is to watch your mouth when you talk to yourself, okay? We talked about that inner voice, and we talked about the champion voice and the critic voice. But all too often, we talk to ourselves in a manner that is not very uplifting and pleasing. And I don't think that our inner selves appreciate it much. But I want you to think about, what do you say when you talk to yourself? I know sometimes I say things like, this is sort of like, oh God, you know what? You look beautiful today, or that was a good job. And I wish I could say that I wish I could say that those are the things that I say to myself all the time. But sometimes I catch myself saying, you have no idea what you're doing. Goodness gracious. I was so stupid. And then I have to catch myself. And then I have to reframe that. And I have to ask myself, what was I thinking and feeling when I had those negative conversations or said those negative words to myself? So think about it. What were you feeling? What was really going on? I have found for me, there's been a time when maybe I didn't do my best, or I thought I didn't do my best, or maybe I should have known more information than I knew. And I felt like I disappointed someone. And, you know, I don't like disappointing people, so that's what was going on for me. But think about it. What's going on for you during those times? Now, I want you to find positive things you can say to yourself instead of those things. For instance, well, this may not be your best work, but you know, you did a really good job in this area and this area. And next time though, Stephanie, maybe we need to explore this area a little more, but you did a pretty good job. I acknowledged what I did good, and I acknowledged what I needed to improve. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I want you to always make sure that you acknowledge all of the wonderful, positive things that you've accomplished every day of your life. Now, in awakening that inner giant that is within you, you've got to know what you want. And this is not what your family wants for you, or your children, or your parents, or your friends. This is what you want. And there's several categories I want you to think about. Health and well-being. What kind of health do you want? What's your health now? Do you know your important numbers? What are they? How do you want them to improve? How's your home, family? How are your close friends? I want you to think about your education, personal development, and career. What about financial security? What do you do for fun? What's your spiritual life like? And how are you with your community? All these things are incredibly important in deciding what it is you really want. We've got a caller on the line. Hi, James. How are you?
How you doing? Okay, how can things get better when some of these politicians come out in front of the media? They want things to get better, but every time when they come out in front of the media, and then everything backfire, and they can't. God see everything, and then they got to get on their knees and pray. And you're doing a wonderful job.
The caller had a question or a statement about politicians, and I believe that if we want to change the world that we live in, I believe all change starts with us. What we see in the world is a result of us not doing what we have been sent here to do, not knowing what we want to do. And also, because we don't know what we want, we tend to play a silent role. We tend to step back and just let others decide for us. Because if you don't take action, a decision will be made, and one will be made for you. So if you look at those areas that we talked about earlier, health, home, education, friends, financial security, recreation, spirituality, and community, and decide, what do you want for those things? What do you want from your health? And what are you willing to do? And what plans and steps are you willing to take? So, if it's weight loss, and everyone talks about losing weight, what are you willing to do today to accomplish that goal? Now, I want to add a little bit of fun to that, right? So now you know what you want for health. Why do you want it? Do you want it so you can be healthier, so you can live longer, or you're just trying to bring sexy back? Why do you want it? You've got the steps you're going to take. Now I want you to write a corresponding affirmation with that. So for health, it would be like, I am beautiful, powerful, and good looking. Something like that. It's got to have a little bit of fun to it. And then I want you to pick out a song from your playlist that will remind you of that. And then I want you to put that on your playlist. I want you to think about your home, family, close friends. What do you want from your family? What do you want from your home and your close friends, and why? What can you do to get it? What's going to be your affirming statement? And what song are you going to put on your playlist for that? All of a sudden, I'm thinking we're a family. Education, personal development, and career. What do you want? What's your affirming statement? And what's your song on your playlist? I want you to do these for all 7 categories. And I want you to read your affirmations, and I want you to record them. And then I want you to make a playlist out of the songs. And you want to entitle it, Know What You Want. And you have those songs. So as you play those songs, you will be reminded of the things that you just decided that you wanted to live. And as you listen to your affirmations on your audio tape, that's your voice propelling you toward action so that you can remember to take the steps that are needed. I want you to develop a wealth plan. In this wealth plan, I want you to look at the money you have. I want you to develop a budget. And as I always say, budgets are all over the place. They're all over, they're online, they're in the library, they're everywhere. Everybody has a budget. And if you don't like any of the templates that are available, create your own template. I want you to write down every expense you have, the cost of it, and how much money you make and what's left over. Then I want you to look at what you need to cut from your budget. Maybe you could take lunch instead of buying lunch. Maybe you could bring your own drinks to work instead of buying them from the machine. Look at your cell phone plan. Maybe there's a better plan for the usage that you have. A lot of us buy and pay for far too much data and far too much talk and minutes than we ever use. So I want you to scale that down to what you actually use. Pay attention, go through your checkbook and see where do you spend money spontaneously, and then ask yourself, what are you thinking and how do you feel when you're spending that money spontaneously? I want you to take that information and create a list that says behaviors that keep you broke. Now, when I'm uncertain about a lot of things in my life, I tend to spend a lot more money or eat more food. So for me, I would write down those things that I'm uncertain about or things that I did that I regret. And that would be on my list of behaviors that keep me broke. And then I would find ways to change that behavior. Another thing I want you to look at is, do you carry credit cards you don't need? Are you paying only minimum payments on your credit cards? How much credit card debt do you have? Do you really know? Are you overspending? And do you take the time to sit down and have a financial session with yourself weekly? How much did you spend that week? Did you take care of everything that was on your budget? Did you have money left over? Did you go on a hole? Why? If you can't stick to a budget, I'm reminded by my notes, the envelope method works. Get an envelope, write down what it's for, utilities, phone. Put the money in that envelope, and then that's what you spend that money on. And then if you need more money that's in your envelope, you already know where you're overspending and what you need to cut back on. And if you have to go into another envelope, then you know that you're already going to be short. I want you to look at starting a savings plan. And savings plan can be for any amount. Most people, however, think that they shouldn't start a savings plan until they have a lot of money to save, so they wait. And consequently, they never get a savings plan because they're always waiting. So I want you to make a commitment and start with a small amount if that's what you have. Start with 1% of what you make and do that for 3 months, and then go to 2%. Do that for 3 months and increase it by 1% every month until you're up to 10%. I want you to look at your credit card debt, and I want you to start to pay it down, and then make a promise to yourself that you will not add any more debt to your credit. No more. We're spending cash. Now, and if you think that you can't save 1% or 2%, this is the technique that I used when I started saving, because I couldn't save 1%. I started saving my raises. So for instance, if I was living out of $400 a month and then I got a raise, I kept my expenses down to $400 a month, and the extra I would save. And the next time I got a raise, I would still keep my living expenses down, and I would save the extra. You'll be surprised at how quickly you're up to 10, 20% of saving everything that you earn. The key is to keep your expenses and your cost of living down. So you're going to have to do things like cook. That's a novel idea, almost a lost art. So you're going to have to cook. You're going to have to not eat out. And if a lot of people who are single says, oh, but it's cheaper for me to eat out than it is to cook, not really. It is always healthier and cheaper for you to cook. You can start cutting out other expenses too. Are you a snacker? Well, let's trade in potato chips and candy bars for carrots and celery and green peppers. They're cheaper and they're healthier. And that would get you back to your plan of getting healthier and get back to your plan of losing weight if weight loss is your problem. And that would get you back to your plan of making sure that you're taking care of your heart and you're taking care of your other body parts. Then once you are at a point where you have zero credit card debt and say no to credit card debt, and you have saved 10%, and you're saving 10% of what you earn, and you have 9 months to a year's worth of savings in the bank, you're now in a point that where you can start looking for active or passive income. Active income would be an example of, and it depends upon, let's say you make commissions or you live off commissions, then maybe you want to increase the commissions. Or maybe you get a second job. That's the kind of that's what active income is. Those are things where you have to participate materially. You have to do something. Maybe you can increase your active income, or maybe you can get some passive income. You can start to maybe save financial instruments that are yielding higher interest instead of a savings account or a checking account. Maybe you want to look into some bonds. Work with a financial planner. Don't work with just one. Actually, I recommend that you actually see between 2 or 3. That way you can get an idea of what you like. And when you're working with them, remember the listening to your body section? I want you to listen to your body. Your body will let you know what feels right to it. And if it doesn't feel right, it may sound right and it may be right for your friend. It's just not right for you. There are so many ways to invest. And there are so many ways because there are so many ways that are right for some and not right for others. Just find the one that is right for you. If you are thinking about stocks and bonds and things like that, I would just recommend that you actually start to study and learn about that particular stock or bond or whatever that market is, real estate. Spend some time reading about it and actually watching it and see how it performs for 6 to 8 months, because you want to be able to see how it performs at the highs as well as how it performs in the lows. And that way you can determine if you have the wherewithal to stick with that particular method of passive income during the bad times. I want you to understand that no matter what you decide has some risk. So you've got to determine your risk level. If you're risk adverse, then just remember that. That doesn't make you good, it doesn't make you bad, it just makes you risk adverse. And you're going to look for instruments that will allow you to be able to stay true to who you are. Start to not only watch it, but once something gets your eye, let's say you're looking for product A, what will begin to happen is you'll start tuning into a lot of different information about product A. Start actually paying attention to that. Start asking questions about it. Write to the companies and get information about it. Go online and look at their financial performance over the last 5 to 10 years. That way you can see if they're a solid company. And if you just don't think you can do all of that, find someone who has been successful and simply mimic what they do. There was a story written about 12 years ago about an administrative assistant whose boss was wealthy. She would do all of the trading and buying for her boss. So if her boss, he would buy 100 shares of something, she would buy 1 because that's what she could afford. By the time she retired, she too was a millionaire. She just mimicked the behavior of someone that was successful. So just look at what they do and find out what it is that they do that actually resonates you, that feels good to you, makes sense to you. Makes sense to you, feels good in your heart, feels good in your body. It just seems to be a win-win situation, and follow that. But get started slowly, because I don't want you to think that it's all going to just work out all the time. It is a risk, and I want you to be all right with that. And the other thing that we should always do, that would help you no matter where you are, is to make that gratitude list. I know we hear a lot about gratitude and the importance of gratitude, and it seems like all they ever talk about is gratitude. But recent studies have shown that people who are grateful and people who are happy are actually 7 to 10% richer than the other people, just by virtue of being happy and being grateful. So I want you to make a list every day of the things that you are grateful for, the things that happened to you that day that were just phenomenal, the things that happened to you and for you that day that made it worthwhile. Sometimes people start with just simply getting up out of the bed and being able to breathe. That works too, because that is something to be grateful for. You have your jobs, you've got your family, you've got your health. But during your day, there'll be lots of little small things that will make you smile. I want you to include those on your gratitude list. There'll also be things that will make you say, wow. I want you to include those on your gratitude list. And I want you to keep these. And in the course of a year, when you have that moment where you're thinking that nothing's going right for you, that you can do nothing right, I want you to refer back to all those lists of everything that you have to be grateful for, and you will be reminded of just how wonderful you are. Now, in all of the wonderfulness that we are, there's another exercise that I want you to do, and that's an exercise of forgiveness. I want you to look at it from two ways. There's always the way that we hear the most about, and that's forgiving people who've caused us harm. I want you to make a list of the things that people have done to you that have caused you harm, and I've talked all night about releasing that, and I want you to release that. I want you to release it all. Not just the big things, not just the lingering things, but the little things too, like someone cutting you off for traffic or somebody rushing past you through the door and you were trying to get through the door with all your stuff and they just went past you. All those kinds of things. I want you to forgive those. The other thing that I want you to do, though, is I want you to make a list of all of the things that you have done to people that have caused people harm or hurt or envy. I want you to make that list. And I want you to be real honest with yourself. And the scripture says we are to forgive 7 times 70. So I want you to come up with 70 things that you have done to others that you need to be forgiven for. And then I want you to take those things and I want you to, my favorite thing is to have a burning bowl, is to put them in a pan and set them on fire and watch them disappear. But I want you to actually ask those situations and those people for forgiveness. And then you will be able to see all of the wonderful things happen. And things will just kind of clear up, and you'll begin to always be one of those people who always operate in the levels 4 or the levels 5. I want you to then sit down, and I want you to write a letter to yourself. But I want you to write it from the future self. So the letter would be dated, today's date, a year from now. And I want you to do it sort of like a project or a thesis. And I want you to have like observations that says, a year ago, this is what was happening in your life. But now, a year later, this is what's happening in your life. And I want you to address those 7 categories we talked about. The health was one of them. Our relationships with your family, close friends, financial, community, spiritual, education, those areas. I want you to talk about every one of those areas in your letter that's dated in the future. Then I want you to put that letter in a place, and in a year from now, I want you to open the letter. You are going to be amazed at how many of those things that you actually accomplished. See, you may not think you would remember, but your spirit and your soul remembers what to do, and they will help you along the way in doing those things. To get you through the hard times and the difficult times during the day, I want you to write a brag list, quick list, right now, of 7 things that you've done throughout your life. And I'm stressing throughout your life. Not today, this month, this year, your whole entire life. 7 things that you can absolutely brag about. I want you to write those down now. Got them? I want you to put them in your wallet, someplace where you can see them all the time, someplace where you have them with you. And when those moments come by where their inner critic is saying, you know, I don't know what you were thinking, but you're never going to be able to be successful with this. I want you to pull out that list, and I want you to read that list, because that list is going to remind you that you've done wonderful things in your life, all through your life, and that this thing will be no different. For this thing is going to become the next thing on your brag list. I want you to watch your idle listening. We all have some kind of MP3 player, some kind of music gadget that we seem to be attached to and addicted to. And we're always listening to music, always. And even now you can tell the stations what music you want to listen to. But those stations will mix up music and throw music in there. I want you to be certain that you are listening to music that is uplifting, music that inspires you. And I want you to start to pay attention of the words, because what you hear repeatedly is what you will become to believe and what you will do. So if the lyrics have any message that's derogatory or any message that you would not want to live in your life, I want you to take that one off your playlist and not listen to that. Start your mornings in gratitude. Start your mornings with a little quiet time, and end your day in gratitude and with a little quiet time. Now, as I said before, the purpose of quiet time is simply to quiet your mind so that you can know what you're thinking and how you feel about stuff. And then once you dismiss that stuff, you're going to make space for all the new ideas, for all of the wonderful things that need to get your attention. Then I want you to play your playlist that reminds you of all the things that you're going to accomplish in this wonderful life. And then you can start your day. Now that you've gotten some steps that will help you awaken your inner millionaire, it doesn't take every single action that we talked about, but it does take some actions. So remember that get started is the key now. We've done almost an hour's worth of planning, and there's absolutely no magic in any of it. The magic is the action that you will take. If you don't take action, the plans will remain just that. They'll remain lists of paper that have lists of behaviors that you need to eliminate in your life, lists of people that you've outgrown and you need to eliminate. It'll be just another list of things that you need to do to get healthy and improve your spiritual life. It'll be just another list of things you need to forgive, just another list of things that you're grateful for. But it's the action that you take that is important. So people like to procrastinate a little bit, and they like to do a bunch of stuff at once, and then they want to rest the other days. It's almost like they want to work on the Sabbath and rest the rest of the days. So instead of working one day and resting 6, you're going to work every day. And remember I told you about the scroll and the one thing? That's the action that you're going to take. You're going to take one action every day toward your goals. So if it's your health, you're going to plan before you leave the house how you're going to take care of your health by planning what you're going to eat, what you're going to drink, by planning the emotions. You're going to plan that. If it's your workplace, you're going to plan your workday, and you're going to have a list, and you're going to carry out all of the things that you need to carry out. But you have to move into action. There's a joke that says, there's a story that says, there was a football game and the teams were playing, and all of a sudden the quarterback throws the ball. Great catch. Receiver gets the ball. Wonderful catch. But he starts to run the wrong way. However, he realized he was running the wrong way, and he adjusted and turned around and started to run the right way and made the touchdown. Life is just like that. You have to be in motion. So you have to ask yourself, to where are you running? What is the plan for the trip? And thinking about those relationships, who are you taking with you? But remember, it's where are you going first. Then it's who's going with you. I want to take a few minutes as we wrap up to thank all of the callers for calling in with your questions. I again want to thank all of you who go to my website, attend my events, and just support me in every way imaginable. I want to thank all of you who send me well wishes, because I do need my spirits lifted from time to time, and I save all of those and keep them in wonderful places so that I can read them as the day goes on when I need them. I want to thank all of you for that. If you need additional information, feel free to visit www.asipofinspiration.com, just like the television show. And out there you'll see videos that you can review. Also, you feel free to check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, and a host of others. You'll be able to see and join my daily quotes for the day, where I do my very best to help you stay focused, to help you understand that you are the star player in your life, and that what you do for you that keeps you uplifted is also a step that you're taking to uplift the others in your life. We don't understand just how contagious happiness is, just how contagious contentment is, and just how contagious gratitude is. For if you leave your house bringing your best self, you will encourage others to do the same. I want to say, I want you to dream big. I know I've given you a lot of homework, and some people are probably sitting there with clenched teeth like this, and I can't possibly do it all. But I want you to dream big. I want you to always dream big. And I want you to know that inside of you, your brain is even conditioned to go out and help you find the information that you need to live your dreams. So, until next time, remember, life is too short to drink cheap champagne. This is Stephanie Wilson-Coleman, the Empowerment Doctor. It is my pleasure. I believe that each soul is jam-packed with every single thing that it needs to be successful. I believe that no matter where you find yourself, that you can overcome. I believe that you have what it takes deep inside of you to be a winner. See, it's not over until you say it's over. Get ready for this adventure towards success. Dream big.
Tomorrow's gonna bring a change. The message remains the same.